Hi, back here talking about natural horsemanship equipment. Some very important points for us to realize before we go out and purchase anything that we think that we need for our horse. It's always important for me to explain to students why we use what we use. They do have a purpose. Even though it's considered to be natural horsemanship equipment, there are some varieties on the market that we need to understand which is the best for you. So I have here what's called the 12-foot line, and it's longer than most lines that you find around barns for one purpose, and that's so that we can ask our horse to get out of our space and to be able to communicate with us at a farther and farther distance. It also allows horses that are emotional and need that flight response to be able to float out away from you. The worst thing you can do is hold a horse that needs to move away back to you. That only provides a feeling of claustrophobia for him and makes things even more emotional and worse for you and your horse. So that's the 12-foot line. That's why we use it in 12 feet. If you have a 9-foot line too, you can use that around the barn. That's not a big deal. Sometimes these can be kind of cumbersome for just normal walking around with your horse. But if you're training and working with your horse and playing with him online, make sure you start with a 12-foot line and get to the end of it. And speaking of the end here, we have what we call poppers on the end, and they're just a piece of leather. One of the things that we ask horses to do is to move away from rhythm. And so when we're asking our horse to maybe move away from rhythmic pressure, we can kind of twirl that a little bit, and this thing kind of flops around a little bit and just makes it a little clearer to our horse. So if we needed to kind of tag our horse or to bite our horse a little bit, it kind of makes a noise that is more, that may bring a dull horse a little bit more with more alertness. So that's that. The other thing that's important about 12-foot lines is that it has a clasp on it, and a heavy clasp. There's a reason for that. We use a couple of different kinds of clasps here. This is pretty much our go-to, our beginner one. It's called a barrel clasp, and it is also safety. If your horse were to pull away, this thing would unlock, so you can use it to tie up horses with if you were using a flat halter. But the nice thing about this, two things. First of all, we attach this onto our halter. And this is our direct line of communication with our horses. We have this as a little heavier here, so it talks a little bit more to the pole pressure on, and it also speaks a little bit more to the nose pressure as well. As you get better with your horsemanship, your lines and your equipment gets lighter. So I actually, with my horses now, I'm able to take this right off my line and attach my line right to my halter. So I would bypass this altogether and just have a halter with the line attached to it. I don't need the weight, I don't need that level of conversation with him, but again, that's a training level. I would suggest that everybody start with a clasp, a fairly heavy clasp between their line and their halter. It does make for clear communication. Also too, this swivels. So if you're asking your horse to go in a circle, or if he's going in a circle purposely because he has to move his feet, this isn't all going to get twisted up in your hands and kind of have kinks in it. It will just kind of go with what you're doing backwards and forwards. So that's the clasp, and again, that clasp can disappear as your training level gets better. So that's our 12-foot line. And by the way, this is made out of a yacht rope as well. It has a lot of play to it. It has a lot of feel to it. And I can't explain that on a video, but certainly if you were to work with it, you can feel that it has life in it. There's a lot of difference between the weight of a yacht rope compared to most of the lines that you buy from tack stores that are kind of barber shopper looking. So 12-foot line, yacht rope, heavy clasp to start at the end that swivels for safety and ease, and that's your second piece of equipment.